Hello everybody and welcome to the Clash of Streamers Beginner's Combat Guide. When progressing through the various combat related buildings of Clash of Streamers, it's very easy to get stuck rather quickly if you don't know what you're doing. In this video, we're going to discuss our top 5 beginner's tips for combat progression in Clash of Streamers. In number 5, we're going to take a look at team layout. When most people play Clash of Streamers and fight in the campaign tower or the arena, they usually just use the smart button to determine the heroes and team layout. While this usually does a good enough job, you can improve your team a lot if you choose the heroes and lineup manually. In fact, one of the best things you can do to improve your overall team lineup is to move your strongest warrior into the first slot. Since this isn't often handled by the smart button, you need to configure this manually. For example, when I click smart, you can see my warrior moves into the back line. This is a less than optimal position for a warrior in most cases. A warrior is typically strong and tanky, having a very high health pool and a ton of armor, so it usually doesn't make a lot of sense having it in the back line. Having a warrior placed in the first position gives your backline heroes and second frontline hero a lot more time to dish out damage before taking a lot of damage themselves. This is much better than having something like a rogue or mage in the front position, since they would usually get killed much more quickly, making your other heroes vulnerable very early on. Managing your team manually and placing your best warrior in the front position can be a huge help if you normally use the smart button to handle your team lineup. In number 4, we are going to take a look at hero levels and stars. Hero levels and stars are a fairly basic concept that most people grasp. You simply upgrade your heroes in the upgrade building and you level up your heroes in the level up building. Overall, it's pretty straightforward. However, there's one thing that you need to be aware of. You should always try your best to make sure that the levels of a hero match the stars as well as possible. So why is that important? Well, for example, it's extremely inefficient to have one 5-star level 8 hero and another 8-star level 5 hero. The levels would be much better if they were all applied to one hero that had very high stars. This is because the power bonus is multiplicative. The higher the stars are, the more the additional levels will actually improve the hero. With that being said, if you have the opportunity to, you should try your best to transfer the streamer dust from your low star, high level heroes to your high star, low level heroes. Let's take another look at my previous example with the 5-star level 8 hero and the 8-star level 5 hero. By sacrificing this 5-star level 8 hero to upgrade a different lower level 5-star hero, you will get all the streamer dust that was used to get the hero to level 8. You could then use that streamer dust to level up the 8-star hero to level 8, resulting in an 8-star level 8 hero. This is far better than having heroes with mismatching stars and levels. If you keep this in mind while playing and focus on keeping the levels and stars roughly equal, it will be a huge help in maximizing the power of your heroes. In number 3, we're going to take a look at achievement buffs. Achievements can easily be the most underestimated aspect of Clash of Streamers, although they definitely shouldn't be. You can quickly rack up a ton of additional attack, power, armor, and health onto your heroes if you are collecting the right achievements. Before we get started, we're going to break our achievements up into 3 categories: fighting achievements, streamer achievements, and loot card achievements. To start, we'll look at fighting achievements. As you fight more in the campaign tower and the arena, you'll collect a ton of fighting achievements. The more battles you take part in, the more fighting achievements you'll collect, and as a result, the stronger your heroes will become. In this case, I managed to give my heroes an additional 5.6% health, 1.9% attack, and 1.9% armor, all from fighting achievement buffs. If you want to maximize your buffs from fighting achievements, it's a good idea to always use bulk attack and never skip to boss in the campaign tower. It's also important to keep in mind that for a lot of times when you think you might be stuck, you actually aren't. A 50 times bulk attack can usually help you clear a ton of waves easily, even when you think you're stuck. These fighting achievement buffs can quickly stack up to some really high numbers, so keep this in mind as you continue to progress through the campaign tower and play Clash of Streamers. Now let's take a look at streamer achievement buffs. There are several different achievements which grant buffs to your heroes. For the most part, you'll be gradually earning these achievements simply by collecting new heroes from the summon building as well as various other in-game methods. However, if you happen to be stuck at a wall in the campaign tower or arena, there is another potential solution. The more unique streamer skins you collect, the more power your heroes will get from this achievement. So, if you have a bit of free time, you could go around collecting free skins from tons of different streamers and content creators who are in Clash of Streamers. The more unique skins you collect, the more power your heroes will have in the long run. Now let's take a look at loot card achievement buffs. What most people don't actually realize is that loot cards actually grant you a ton of combat related buffs as well. More specifically, claimed loot cards grant you combat related buffs. If we take a look at the achievements for collecting loot cards, cards, we can see that there are achievements for collecting each loot card rarity. While some of these values may seem quite minuscule, loot cards can quickly and easily be bought off of the auction house for some Krypton. The more used loot cards you collect, the higher these loot card achievement buffs become, increasing the health, attack, power, and armor of all your heroes. In number 2, we're going to take a look at pet abilities, more specifically, Smork Pet passive abilities. This is an extremely easy way to boost the stats of all your heroes by a good amount. The main Smork Pet passive abilities we are interested in are Divine Shield, Lightning Blade, Rejuvenation, Horn of War, Hardiness, and Ancestor's Might. All of these Smork Pet passive abilities will apply additional bonuses to your heroes in combat. Out of all of these abilities, the best abilities will likely be the ones that apply bonuses to multiple stats at the same time. This makes Hardiness and Ancestor's Might abilities you should automatically choose, since you gain benefits to 4 different stats from only 2 abilities. When it comes down to choosing your final passive ability, it's likely that Lightning Blade or Horn of War will be the best choice, since power and attack are often the best stats that determine how far you progress. Of course, if you have a whole team that's stacked on massive armor or health, it might be better to choose Divine Shield or Rejuvenation. However, in most cases, you'll likely need Lightning Blade or Horn of War. Let's say I pick Horn of War for my final ability. Once I know the ability set that I want to use to improve my heroes, I would go into the spellbook and swap the ability set onto my best Smork Pet. And if you don't have the ability set, you can always buy it by spending a bit of Krypton. After you have your best Smork Pet equipped with the best combat abilities, you can then go into the achievements building, head into a random tab, and go into the Smork Pet section and switch the active Smork Pet to the Smork Pet with the combat abilities. After the weekly reset, you'll have an active Smork Pet which will improve your team's attack, power, health, and armor in combat. It should also be noted that before you can take advantage of these Smork Pet abilities, you need to own the Smork Hatchery. If you're regularly collecting 50 pets a day, earning 50 eggs per day from the hatcheries, constantly hatching the eggs, and improving your pets in the upgrade building, you can quickly get a powerful Smork Pet that will increase your stats in combat by a great deal. In number 1, we're going to take a look at faction auras and faction counters. Just so we're on the same page here, faction auras are additional stat bonuses that are applied to your heroes based on the faction composition of your team. A team with 6 heroes from the PogChamp faction will gain the PogChamp aura, while a team with 3 heroes from the Kappa faction and 3 heroes from the Kappa Pride faction will gain the Kappa Kappa aura. While this is just a simple example, there are many more auras available. On the other hand, faction counters are simply bonuses that certain factions gain by fighting against other factions. PogChamp heroes deal 100% extra damage against Smork heroes, while Smork heroes deal 100% extra damage against LoL heroes, and so on. So how can you use faction auras and faction counters to your advantage? Well, for starters, you never want to use the Athene aura. This is easily the worst aura in the game. With that being said, sometimes the smart button will choose the Athene aura for your team. Even though your team might have more total power with the Athene aura, your team will almost certainly be significantly weaker than it might be by equipping a different aura. So, with that out of the way, what would the best aura be? There are likely 2 auras which are contenders for the best aura, the Kappa and Kappa Pride auras. Both of these auras grant a 300% bonus in their respective stats of attack and health, and both of them are not countered by any enemies in the campaign tower, since you'll only be fighting LoL, PogChamp, Smork, and Tryhard teams. While it would be nice to get one of these auras, or even the Kappa Kappa aura, it's a bit of a pipe dream, especially early on. Kappa and Kappa Pride heroes are some of the hardest to get because of how powerful their auras are. While you should always be working towards getting a team with one of these auras, in the meantime, you'll have to settle for one of the easier auras to get. One of the better auras that is simple to achieve is the Rainbow aura, which grants all of your heroes an additional 75% power. The best part about this aura is that the enemy teams in the campaign tower will never be countering more than one of your heroes at a time, making it much more likely that you are fighting on even ground. Even better than having the Rainbow aura, or even any of the Kappa auras, is having an aura that counters enemy teams in the campaign tower. If you are ever stuck, you should always look to see if you have a solid team of heroes from one faction that counters the other faction you are stuck against. If you are stuck in the Smork tower, you should take a look to see if you have a solid team of PogChamp heroes, so that you deal 100% extra damage against the enemy Smork team. And that's all I've got to talk about for this beginner's combat guide. While many of these tips are quite simple in principle, it definitely does not diminish their usefulness. You may find yourself progressing further in the campaign tower and arena with a lot of this advice in mind. In the next video, we'll be going in depth on the more advanced combat mechanics and tactics that you can employ to improve your combat progression even further. If you enjoyed the video or found anything useful, definitely leave a like and subscribe for more. A lot more Clash of Streamers content on the way. Until the next time.